Thank you, Sole.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Sole. Okay, so there's only kind of one slide with an introduction. I have kind of been in procurement for more than 20 years, but I introduced the Coupa platform at Procter & Gamble back in 2015, and I basically been working on getting the maximum benefit from the Coupa platform at P&G for about 5 years. And as part of that, I was working with Adeline, who's here. That's the second picture. Who is, Adeline can introduce himself, but actually we decided to start a business together to also help with the change management and helping companies to get more value from the Coupa platform. So that's our background. And then, the people here, we have grown the team quite a bit recently. With basically people focused on change management and kind of advisory on procurement technology to procurement teams, right? Because I think Coupa is fantastic, but there's also quite a lot of other solutions out there, and it's not always easy to find out what we should use. There's a person here that if you could put yourself on mute, Aymeric, I think, Desmet. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. Good. So with that introduction, I pass it over to Adeline. There is a chat here, so feel free to ask questions in the chat, and so then we can cover those. As I said, the more interactive we can make this, the better. We'll send out a recording, but we also have a couple of things around what should be the topics for the next session and how do we make sure that this really covers what you're looking for. So that would be much appreciated. So, Adeline.
All right, thank you, Nico, for the introduction. So the first thing probably that we will start to discuss is the overall. So what we do with this Coupa Customer Connect, right? Shortly. So exactly what Nico mentioned, that we want to bring the Coupa customers that are already live and they are working on Coupa together to share from the experience, to learn from each other, because I think, in most of the, let's say, questions that appear after the go live, from all the customers around the world, the first question that appear is, but what is the, business, what is the best practice in the world for X, let's say, business case, and how other customers, how other Coupa, companies, like they use Coupa, how they use the system in that way. And then the best way is, Coupa is trying to make this connection. And of course, if you go and ask Coupa, they will give you some connections. But I think from my experience, it's better that you have already possibility to connect with, a group of people that they already work on Coupa and they know exactly how the system is working in the backend, right? So the best thing that we can do here, and digital procurement now will facilitate that, at least at the beginning, and in the future, we want to create that kind of synergy that we, not only us will do this, but together we will do this session, is exchange the practical tips and tricks and solutions that we may have for different problems that you may have on using Coupa, learning from the successful implementation. So in the first session, unfortunately, we don't have that, but in the future, we want to have one company that can share from kind of their experience in going live, and what was the good things that happened, what was the bad things that happened during the the implementation and after that, so that we can learn from each other, right? And then, of course, if I go further, for today session is something that kind of I learned from the beginning, and we learned from the beginning when we started the project in Procter & Gamble. It was the supplier enablement, because most of the companies that they go and implement Coupa, they are not paying attention to this aspect. So when the partner is going to implement Coupa, they just sell the implementation itself, but most often they are not, making the customer aware that for Coupa, the supplier enablement is one of the, the key, let's say, objectives to make the Coupa to work properly, within, let's say, a long run. Because, I had recently a go live this year. I mean, they had a go live this year, and then they contacted digital procurement now after that, to some kind of, let's say, understand what was the reason why the implementation some kind of, go into the right direction, into the wrong direction, because the suppliers are not using the system. The internal users, which is like buyers, they are not aware of the processes and so on. And we said, okay, we need to share this experience. We need to tell to the Coupa community that, that this is one of the important aspects on the implementation, right? And if I go further, and please, if you have any question during this session, you can just unmute yourself and just ask the question, and basically we can answer straight. If not, you can also, if you are shy or you don't want to interrupt, you just drop the message in the chat, and at the end we can take it over and answer. Um, so the first topic is when you start the implementation, and even after that, right? So for example, if you did like you had the go live, you are a couple of months later, you realize, okay, the system is working as a technical aspect, as a business, but it's not like the suppliers are not using it. The internal stakeholders, they are complaining, they are not using the system. There is a reason why, right? And in most of the cases is because you don't have the content properly set up, right? Because, for example, if the user is going there and just type the manual freeform text, then what is the benefit for him, So those things should come with the first option, which like option first milestone that we have here is define clear goal for, what is success means for you as a company to go live and to enable Coupa for your users to use the system much more proficient, let's say. So in the first one is to define exactly, if you want to use the hosted catalogs or punch outs, you need to do some kind of analysis internally for your suppliers. So in all our implementations starting, I think we did that also in Procter and Gamble. We extract the list of all suppliers, and then we extract also the number of purchase orders, items that those suppliers has, and then you need to do analysis, right? Analysis of all those elements to see, for example, which supplier is sending, um, you know, a high number of invoices, right, to you. And then you see, okay, I have, 10 suppliers that per month they submit 1,000 invoices, for example. In that case, you need to focus on those that you can have a quick win, and then you can, scale down to the ones that are, the number is low. I mean, those things are very simple, but during my experience for Coupa implementation, I saw that companies are not doing this, at all. The next step is, with this analysis, you target those suppliers in high, medium, low enablement. So that way you can always start with high enablement and then focus on them. All right. Medium, it's low priority, but also you need to focus on them. And basically you see here that we said, okay, if you have high enablement, maximum 20 suppliers that you can manage, and do the punch outs, XML connection for purchase orders, for invoices, for those. And then for the medium ones that we catalogate them like, okay, hosted catalogs and CSP, at least the those two levels should have more than 95%, enablement in the CSP, and also in the transaction level after. Then if we move to the third one, which is prepare your buyers internally to enable suppliers, right? So because usually if you don't, you know, put this kind of, you know, work or request to the buyer to collaborate with you, there is, you know, you automatically create some kind of silo, right? Between implementation team, between the team that wants to use Coupa and the buyers or people that are, you know, sometimes they are just negotiating some you know, contracts or deals, but they don't want necessarily to use Coupa, right? They don't understand because probably they were not trained properly on how the system is using, and probably Nico can tell more about that, about his experience on you know, as a buyer. Or maybe do you want to say a couple of words about that, Nico?
Yeah, no, happy to do that, right? So I think tiering your supply base, as Adeline mentioned, is very powerful, right? So like tier one suppliers, tier two, three, tier three, and we had, for example, a top 10 opportunities for e-invoicing, right? So we published the 10 biggest suppliers from a transaction point of view that were not on electronic invoicing in Coupa, and we published those lists with the responsible buyer behind it, and then we sent it out, and so everybody could see which suppliers were not playing a game with us, right? So we and of course, when then suppliers were enabled, then of course we go to the next and the next and the next. The other thing we did was very, very interesting. We visited the Bucharest Service Center, where a lot of the enablement efforts were being managed from. And then they organized that the lead team, including the head of procurement, would call suppliers and convince them to move to electronic invoicing in Coupa. And it was super interesting because a lot of leadership don't know what supplier enablement means. They don't know the point of view from the supplier side, right? They think, well, oh, this is, you know, our benefit is this. So everybody's very clear about what our benefit is, but we never really put ourselves in the shoes of the supplier and say, hey, what's in it for the supplier? Now, what's in it is obviously CXML connections allow PO integration into their ERP, so it becomes very efficient from a transaction management point of view. And my belief is that actually, if you do this well, 50% of the benefits of going digital is actually on the supplier side, right? 50% is on the buyer side, 50% is on the supplier side. And I think suppliers that understand this can really leverage this to grow the business with their customer, right? And I mean, Amazon Business is a great example of a company that's massively grown because they really took that opportunity to heart and grew their business massively in Europe because of platforms like Coupa and others, right? So, you know, think double, what's in it for the supplier. We had another great data point, which was an electronic invoice is 80% more likely to be paid on time than a non-electronic invoice. So if a supplier came to us and said, oh, you know, you're not paying your invoices, the first question was, are you submitting them electronically? And if the answer was no, we said, well, sorry, but you know, we like to receive them electronically, and you know, before you complain about it, you know, let's just go with the flow. And then if it's still not paid, then we talk again, but there's then some other issues here, right? So very important to put yourself in the shoes of the supplier, and I think some people are better at it than others. P&G is not particularly strong in that either, but I think we learned the hard way that this is the way to approach it.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nico. Thank you. And I will move to the next slide. Yeah. So it's like another point is for the content itself that comes with that. You know, sometimes I saw companies that they, for example, you know, Coupa has the opportunity to use the punch out very easy. We all know, I mean, the technical people here in this meeting knows how easy it is to connect those days, like in Coupa, a new supplier in the punch out, right? It's just a simple form. It's very easy. But then you have the hosted catalog that you want to have control, right? So usually when we go and we do the analysis and we say, okay, you want to enable, I don't know, 100, suppliers on the catalog based. Then we, from those 100 suppliers, what are the rules usually that you need to set up to, to make sure that you pick those suppliers properly, right? And what we think is the most important aspect is if you have a supplier with more than 10,000, items that that supplier is selling, then you need to automatically, select that supplier as a punch out, right? Because this, if you allow, and the colleagues from Coupa here will point out to me, but if you allow the system to have, I don't know, one catalog with 100,000 items, I saw those cases, even though looks crazy amount, I saw it in real life, where they load the system like with this crazy amount of items, and then they ask themselves why the system is going to like very slow. Why I just search for the item and then the system after a couple of seconds give me the answer. Look, that's the answer because you have, a bunch of catalogs that probably, or a bunch of items that probably no one is using them, and then the system is just getting slower and slower every time when you load those items, because of course there is a, like, the system needs to process those things, right? Even if you open it in Excel with, I don't know, many lines, and then start to search in, even in Excel, it's the same. It's just a database in the backend. So that's the first thing that you need to take in consideration. Then split those, categories of hosted catalogs and punch out catalogs. What we did also very interesting for very many like big manufacturing companies from Germany. We had, very interesting approach. It was a little bit more the number than 10 times than 10, the number, it was 50,000 items, not more than that. And what they did, they said, um, all those suppliers that has, more items than that, buyer must to go and force them to reduce the number with the items that we really need. The other ones that we don't need, we don't insert them in the system. So in those cases, you need to go also in that direction to make sure that you optimize your system properly. Otherwise, you will end up like, probably there here in the community, we have some examples that, you are already complaining that the system is working slowly, and why, that is one of the reasons, right? This can go in all the other aspects like lookup values, and other things, but on items, we saw it very, very often. And then you need to make sure that this kind of split and scope is done properly. And then moving further to the next one is define clear communication, right? In terms of, it's not just sending an email to the supplier with, hey, we go live next month, or hey, we enable Coupa compliant, invoice compliant, and we want you to send the invoice via Coupa from now on. That's not the way, right? Going back to the enablement, going back to, this analysis that we did, you just need to make sure that you, based on the category, based on the tiers that you select the supplier, you you approach that supplier properly, right? Meaning that if it's a high enablement supplier, you need to go there, start with email communication, ask them for PO confirmation, ask them for a technical person to allow you to set up the CXML, ask them for those things. If that is not it's not possible and the supplier doesn't answer, then you go to the next level, which you take the buyer that is responsible for that supplier and say, hey, you need to help, you need to, find the right person. And usually they do that, right? Because they see the benefit on working on Coupa, right? Yeah, and then important aspect is, webinars. I think usually the when we started this kind of webinar approach in my experience in Procter and Gamble, there were like a few suppliers they joined, to those webinars on how they should use the system, right? And then we learned that not only sending the invite, and then the communication, but also kind of tricks that you need to use. For example, I don't know, before the webinar with 1 hour, you just send a reminder. Before, you should not send the communication or the webinar invites on Fridays because no one see them. During the weekend, they receive another emails and then, it's so those are some things that usually you need to take in consideration, right? To make sure that the communication is like targeting the right person in that organization, right? And moving further, because we are like with the time very limited, we have the after go live. So you did all those things. You are available. You are using the system. 60%, for example, all your 60% of suppliers are on CSP. They receive the purchase order properly. They submit the invoices properly. That's fine. But then after the go live, you need to create internally the procedure properly. For example, to invite those suppliers that they are not onboarded into the system all the time, right? Either the buyer will do that, either you have a special team that is just focusing on the supplier enablement, or content management team that is doing always that. But you need to continuously update the system and make sure that the content is right, but also you are communicating with the supplier properly, right? Because the supplier database is changing very, very often, so you need to do that. Additionally, what you need to do is a supplier landing page. I saw very few companies that do that. Luckily, in 99 of my implementation projects, we did it because we asked them to do it, even though that sometimes probably, or most often, they don't understand and they don't pay for the supplier enablement. They don't want to, take that other person additional to the team just to focus on this one. But we create a landing page with documentation for the suppliers, right? And you will ask me right now, but Coupa has that. Of course, Coupa has that, and you can send the links from the Coupa Compass to all your suppliers. But the problem with that is that you have your business case, right? You have your own rules, your own custom fields on the invoices, your own, details on in terms of how you split the invoicing process, right? For example, if you are in Italy, you have probably from one those three options that Coupa has, you have one, or probably you don't have none of them, and then you have all the invoices that are processes directly in eDoc in SAP. So it's a different from customer to customer. And in that way, by creating this landing page, you make sure that the details related to your business case are directly, received by the supplier, right? In the same time, what we did and what we do all the time is when you send meet the CSP invite to those suppliers, you have the possibility in Coupa to modify the content of that email. And what we did, we always kind of insert the link URL to the homepage that you have, right? Of course, we need to go and check exactly the link to skip those security protocols and stuff, but that's easy. And then once you have that inserted there, then when the supplier receives the communication, okay, join the CSP, then he has or they have already the link to the landing page and have all the information that they need, right? Yeah.
Maybe
So those, yeah,
just a
go ahead.
quick one, just a quick one, also based on the question that we get from Helen here about catalogs and maintaining catalogs. So I mean, just the numbers. We had 5% of the orders were catalog orders, and we set a target of something like 35% of purchase orders should be catalog. So we basically said all the goods that the plants buy should be cataloged. And I mean, nobody thought that was possible, but we started to push it. We focused very heavily on punch outs, right? So in the beginning, we said, well, that's the quickest way to create a lot of content for the users. We wanted to change the behavior of the users from shopping free from text to shopping from punch out catalogs. So in total, we enabled 300 punch outs in 71 countries, right? So if you do the math, it basically means that every country had a couple of punch outs, right? So including like South Africa, India, Saudi Arabia, we had punch out catalogs in those countries. People thought, well, that's a bit risky because how do you control the pricing in these punch outs? And then we wrote a little a price comparison bot that actually compared the pricing in the punch out with the pricing on the public website of the provider. And then the discount that was negotiated, we could verify if that discount was actually applied. So it gave us a lot of control on pricing and punch outs, and it kind of helped. The other thing we have organized what we call a digital supplier day, specifically in Germany, because Germany was one very, very slow to pick up on digital. For some reason, that's is kind of difficult for that country. So we basically presented, and we put 40 of our biggest suppliers together in a face-to-face session, and including competing companies, right? So multiple, like maybe facility management, multiple security providers, and we basically explained what the strategy was, right? What did we want to do? Why Coupa was like important. We wanted to make life as easy as possible for our suppliers, which a lot of suppliers were smiling and said, well, today you're our most difficult customer. So, we don't believe that you be the easiest customer. We've simplified a lot of work processes as well. Now about, okay, how do you clean up catalogs and how do you make sure that only the items that you want people to buy are available? I mean, I can share a little joke. We went live in the US with Amazon Business, and we're very proud on that. The people in the US called this the Amazon project. They didn't call it the Coupa project. They called it the Amazon project. We gave ourselves a user profile so we could order directly from the catalog. So we started shopping, and for some reason, somebody had the idea to see if we could order a sex toy from the Amazon catalog. And actually, within 5 minutes, we had one ordered to be delivered to somebody's desk in the US. And then we realized that we had not basically limited the catalog to the to the categories that we wanted people to buy. So you could actually, in a compliant way, buy these type of items. So we looked at each other and said, okay, nobody needs to know that. And we basically contacted Amazon and said, oh, can you please discontinue these categories because we don't want people to order those from the catalog. And that also includes like laptops and iPads and stuff like that, right? So you can definitely, but I personally believe in punch outs in a big way, because a lot of things are dynamic, and the shopping experience tends to be pretty good in punch out catalogs. So, and maybe Adeline, if you see the question from Milan, maybe you have some other suggestion here.
Yeah, the answer to that question is not so easy, because I know this kind of question appears in most of the cases. We had interesting, like one of my biggest, I would not say fail, but learning curve. It was in one big customer like you, when they basically, what they did, they activated the material master interface from SAP to Coupa. And what happened, it was that always, when the interface ran, they messed up all the items in the system. And the answer to your question is how you can clear them. There is no report. If you have the advanced, the analytics, then yes, you can create a kind of report and we can get in contact. Maybe you can give me an email and we can dive in that, and you can create some kind of report to make sure that you have some visibility in which items are used. Yeah. But just to go back to that fail that I mentioned initially, what we did, it was like, of course, cleaning up manually the system, one, and then unfortunately, it was with Coupa, it was just to extract and create some kind of, automation via UiPath to combine two files, one from SAP, one from Coupa, that give them some kind of visibility which items, supplier items, are used and which are not used. But we can get in contact and maybe dive to the system if you are interested, because like I mentioned, in the analytics you can do some interesting things there directly. This customer, they didn't have the analytics, unfortunately.
Then the
Yeah.
next question, what are your thoughts, feedback on Coupa Advantage supplier program compared to normal punch outs? So so in the US, Coupa Advantage works very, very well. I think in Europe, our experience, but mine experience stopped 5 years ago, was that it wasn't very developed in Europe at that time, but maybe that has changed. And I guess it also varies quite a bit between countries in terms of what's available there.
Yeah, that's indeed. So on this one, in Europe now it's developed. I'm working with two, like I would say, big suppliers from Coupa to enable them in that program. But the idea with in is very nice. You can benefit from that at, like, Coupa Advantage Instant. So if you go live and your buyers doesn't want to take the responsibility to negotiate the contracts, and if you want to have a tied kind of go live, then yes, makes sense to take that Coupa Advantage and use it from the beginning, even in Europe, because you have suppliers like I don't know, Mercateoli, Reco, Conrad. I think it's part of it now. So you have suppliers, right, from
Yeah.
Europe for sure.
Yeah.
You can use them, but my, let's say, clear, or my advice is to use it at the beginning, explore it, and then later on negotiate your own contracts with those suppliers.
Yeah, and just on the strategy that we followed, Swapnil, is that we thought, okay, we have to change the behavior of the user from free from text to catalogs. And it's a bit like, okay, well, we have to get people to enter into our shopping mall to buy what they need to buy, right? So we decided that we rather have too many providers with loads of punch out catalogs, etc. And then later on, we kind of figure out who the best providers are, right? So we were actually sometimes, for example, on IT accessories in the US, we had an existing supplier. We added Amazon Business to the supply base, and the existing supplier couldn't compete with Amazon Business from a service point of view. But we had these two marketplaces compete, right? So we said, okay, let's not be picky about who we put into the who we enable in the platform, and then if we really don't like a certain vendor because they users are not happy, or they give us bad quality or bad service, then we basically, at least we have people buying from catalogs, right? Which is the behavior we wanted to move to as much as possible. And then when you have the people in the shopping mall, right? So they used to shop in the catalogs and in the content. We can decide, which vendors give us the best discounts, and then we basically drive more traffic to the vendors that we wanted to grow, and less traffic to the vendors that didn't give us a discount or didn't give us a service or whatever, right? So, but we created almost like marketplaces within Coupa, and we put competing solutions next to each other, and we let the user decide in some of these categories who they wanted to work with.
Perfect. Amazing. I think we are very quick. I'm just okay. So Swapnil, you can
Yeah, you
pick
have a
up. Yeah,
question
please.
here. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Nico and Adling, for providing all the insights with respect to the supplier integrations and the adoption. And I mean, yeah, per my experience as well, I echo with your thoughts. Like in US, it is a bit tech savvy, or there are many suppliers who are technically capable and can adopt to these real-time integrations. Like, I mean, when I was in Coupa, I think couple of years back, and was handling those integrations, that's what uh, at least I was able to identify that the regions which has been highly having this high adoption with respect to this electronic invoicing is US, and then it comes to Europe,
Yeah.
and then very less in the Middle East and the APJ region.
Yeah.
But yeah, would like to understand, like, have you seen any at least increase in the number of suppliers who are
Oh
now
yeah.
interested,
Ab-
or would like to go for this technical adoption, be it punch out, or even
yes.
the end-to-end integration into this particular regions where it is not that much,
Yeah.
earlier?
Yeah. So I mean, a nice example from India. So in India, we had no punch-out catalog providers.
Hmm.
Then we also basically educated them on how to create punch-out catalogs. So we basically put them in touch with Shopify and Magenta. And then I think the son of the owner kind of thought, oh, this is kind of a cool thing to do. So in 2 weeks, he developed a punch-out catalogs in India with all the electrical supplies that his dad company was providing to P&G, right? So it's sometimes possible in a very short period of time to create these
Hmm.
type of catalogs. And I think people need to get on. It's not rocket science, right? If some
Yeah.
kid can do this in 2 weeks, then why do IT departments need months and months? And I mean, we went live in 2016. We had one supplier. They took 9 months to get CXML enabled, and Amazon got CXML enabled in 45 minutes. Okay, so the capability of suppliers varies massively. And if they don't step up in areas like MRO and office supplies and electrical parts and stuff like that, they don't exist in a couple of years from now. So
Okay. Thanks. And how about what are maybe, sorry, just a follow-up question with respect to SFTP invoicing, because of course Coupa support two type of integrations for the suppliers. One is the CXML, which requires high technical, at least technical resources and adoption from their end.
Mm-hmm.
And second is the SFTP invoicing, where suppliers who cannot go for CXML, they can at least try for SFTP invoicing, which requires less technical, technical integration, and even helpful for achieving the invoices, sending the invoices to the
mm-hmm.
platform.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what how is your feedback on this with respect to this SFTP into
Yeah.
this European region, at least? Because for me,
Yeah.
at least that time, it was very few. There were very less as that time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
interested to know,
So
because you'd like to get inputs.
Yeah, so P&G has electronic invoicing in 47 countries in Coupa. Okay, so P&G was the first in India, the first in Japan, um, to basically have compliant invoice templates and have suppliers be able to flip purchase orders into invoices.
yeah.
93% of the POs receive electronic invoices in Coupa. Okay, so those are some of the numbers. US is 100% because we decided to stop processing non-electronic invoices, right? So it varies a lot by country. And I think the approach has to be targeted to the supply base that, and I think local enablement teams are very powerful, right? So if you have a big country and you have big volumes of invoices, then having, I think, a local person that can talk to the supplier in the local language about why this is important, and also can explain in local language what's required. Places like Japan or that's very, very important, right? So you can be a global company, but your suppliers are not global companies mostly, right?
So my experience with that, it's with this SFTP, right? On your answer. Maybe we can what I can do, I can send you a quick QRG. So usually what we do in the implementation, we create those kind of QRG, like how the supplier should approach to load those invoices to the SFTP server. It's like a procedure that you need to provide to them. um, Unfortunately or fortunately, there are just 5 suppliers that we enabled in that way in Europe so far. Looks like they are not willing to spend and to develop that thing too much, because everyone looks like, okay, the SFTP is like a CSV file, it's an old style, we want something new, right? That's their mind. But if you want, drop me an email and I will share to you the QRG, and probably that one will help you, right? Okay,
Sure,
one more
thank you.
thing. Perfect. Thank you. One more thing, please. I will just I put in the chat this link, right? I will add also a print screen from this. Please try to vote for the next session. What will be the topic, right? And then we will send to the community kind of notification and ask them to vote what is the next topic, right? And if someone from the community has the answer, also can be presenter. Like next time, can someone from this community can start to present whatever topic will be picked up based on the community. So just add your problems, add your questions there, and the next session will be directly targeted based on your questions. Okay, any other question from the people here? I think we are a little bit over time.
No, I
No?
mean, we have time, right? So I mean, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully you find it useful. I mean, we have, I think, 37 people that are attending for the first session, but I mean, we do our best to grow the audience, and I think it's companies across the board, right? So it's
Yeah.
but I think the questions like supplier enablement and catalogs, and I think maybe one more thing is that we educated the sourcing buyers about buying channels and agreed with them what was the appropriate buying channel for their spend, right? So when you look at things like storeroom or parts or uniforms or stuff like that, we concluded that catalogs were the right buying channel. And the sourcing event was designed in a way that if the supplier was not able to provide a punch out catalog, they would be disqualified from the sourcing event. And it was very powerful to educate the buyers about this, because a lot of buyers do not understand what buying channels are, and it's a bit of a miss, actually.
Amazing. And as a last thing, maybe for the people that remains here, we want, if you want to stay a little bit more, 10 minutes, not more, we have here a colleague, Teresa, that can, let's say, show you a little bit of Ask Leo and what you can do with Ask Leo. It's basically a Gen AI tool that you can enable in Coupa very, very quickly. And basically that can drive you, change management. The people inside of the organization can use that AI to basically, make sure that the system is more user friendly. So Teresa, can you present that
Thanks so
quickly?
much. Thanks so much, Adeline. There was quite interest in the questions. I didn't think I was going to have time. So just very quickly, since I know that we are running out of time, it's Ask Leo is like your intelligent procurement co-pilot. It's very simple on the surface and it's very powerful underneath. You can ask questions about contract, supplier policy, or processes instead of having to dig through a lot of documents or chase down colleagues. It's like chatting with someone who knows everything that has been entered into Coupa. It's behind the scenes, it's powered by advanced data models, structured contract intelligence, and deep integrations. But for you, it's very simple, fast, and accurate and compliant. So just very quickly, I'll run a very, very short demo to show you how it looks like and what it can do for you. So here we go. That's your standard Coupa page, and it's just an add-on. Just here right at the beginning, do you need anything? Ask your procurement AI assistant. And I think the first thing that I want to show you, which I think is really powerful, if you receive a quote from a supplier in a form of a PDF and you don't want to have to rewrite it into your software, you can just upload the document and then Ask Leo is able to read the document for you. So to save a little bit of time, I have pre-uploaded it already. And basically it has read the title, description, who the organization is, and it even separated the request into different lines and even selected the commodity group and GL account, which is specific for the given quote from the supplier. Then all you have to do is select the date, service, and end date, because this is a service, it is a painting, and then you set it for all lines. You check if everything is okay, if the prices match, and then basically you just continue with sending it for approval. And then what happens is, because Ask Leo has been told that for something that is over $10,000, at least 2 valid offers must be obtained. So this warning pops up. Of course, this is highly customizable. It can be any warning you want it to be. So you click on next, and then you want a sourcing agent project required. This request may take a little bit longer to approve. Again, you read through all of these warnings that have been set up, and then you can submit it for approval. So these warnings do not stop you from submitting for approval. It is just something for your supervisor or down the approval line to read and find out, okay, why don't we have comparative offers? Basically just Ask Leo does the due diligence for you. So you don't necessarily have to know what you have to submit, but it will tell you. But then you can successfully add it to cart, and then it just works as reviewing the cards, and you submit it for approval. Once you submit it for approval, of course, it will be in your request tab. And once you open it, this, of course, is standard in Coupa, but once you open it, you can check all of these comparative checks that are specific to this quote. So here you can see everything that's fine, that's been ticked, and everything that hasn't been ticked. Now going back to Ask Leo and all the other questions you can do or you can ask. Going to something a little bit more simple. Let's say you're not a procurement specialist, you just want to buy something for your team, you have a marketing team, so you want to find out what's happening to your orders. So you can just ask as a into your chat, and it just finds out what's happening with your orders. It directs you to your orders tab, and it can also come up with a table of the most recent orders, depending on how you want to customize Ask Leo. It can also create requests for quotes for you. For example, I have waste and I need it gone. So it's understand what you need to do. Great. It found a supplier that you can get a quote from and who knows how to get rid of the waste. And it sets the email up for you. And then you can add additional instructions, like it's metal waste and it's 500 kilos. So you can just add it and it rephrases the email for you. And then you simply click on open an email app. and then everyone uses email, right? So everyone can read that. You can also ask questions. Yes?
Yeah, so there's a question here from Damon Harbison. So let's also take the question as they come in. Damon.
Sorry, I was on mute. It's just a quick question about the data, or how Askleo behaves with our data. So is Askleo kind of aligned with Coupa's data metrics, like the SOC2? I'm just kind of trying to get my head around like what happens to our data if we deploy Askleo.
Yeah.
So it works within Coupa. So it works within the data that you have uploaded into Coupa. It doesn't venture out of it.
Okay. So it's Gen AI directly in Coupa, a bit like Navi.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, a bit like Navi, but the thing is, I think Askleo has a massive development advantage over Navi because they started this work way before Coupa realized there was a big opportunity. And people are really getting used to chatting or to basically have agentic AI bots in platforms. So that basically means that people don't have to fill in forms and if you have quotations from suppliers. So there's a lot of, we think that Askleo is a much better product than Navi at this point, which is why we are showing it. And I mean, it's just cool tech that we came across. And we think that it's always nice to have, to look a little bit about what else is possible if you have fixed the basics with Coupa in terms of creating like a standard platform to buy goods and services. All your suppliers are connected, all your users are connected, and it takes literally minutes to enable Askleo in the Coupa platform, which is also very, very nice. Just a bit of context around that.
What does it cost?
Well, it's like the value case, right? So you have to look at, okay, what's the value? When we talk to companies that I think 80% of the Askleo customers are Coupa customers. And then they all say, well, this is a really good value case for us. And I mean, the costing is about 10 to 15% of the value that's created, roughly. So.
Yeah, so that's perfect. Yeah, thank you.
For that, we would just ask a few questions, like, for example, your annual number of free text requests, annual number of catalog requests, and from that we would be able to generate some kind of quote. But then if you're more interested about Askleo, we can do the initial demo, and then there's also a workshop, and then we'd get you in touch with the colleagues from Askleo.
Oh, that'd be really handy, that.
Yeah, we can definitely arrange that. Yeah, so since you've used up all the time today, I think that's all I'm going to show from Askleo, but then we can, like we said, we can always...
You can go ahead, right? I mean, I think that we still have 34 people in the call, so if people are willing to hang on, then we can... I think there's one more use case you wanted to show, right, Teresa?
Sure, I can maybe... I set up a delegate. So, some technical questions within Coupa. If you're not using it that often, you're going on holiday, you've got POs that you need to delegate to someone, then you can ask technical questions like this, and it guides you through, all the steps, step by step. To give you examples of if you're buying niche products, you can ask, with this product, how did the prices change within the last 6 months, if you want to have visibility on something specific, and all kinds of questions like that. Really, it is about the data that you upload and what you want to use it for, because it's super highly customizable. Yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to show today.
Yeah, I have a question here about like how does it find out how to answer these questions, right? So buying policies, and often people have 10-page documents around how to buy professional services or waste management services or all of these other services, and those policies are also when you have them in Coupa and, you have people that can find these policies to figure out how to buy something, that's all data that AskLeo uses to guide the user, right? So, and I think what often happens in the big companies is that there's so much data in Coupa that people struggle to find what they need to buy the specific item or the specific service that they want to buy. And so what we see is that people get far more value from Coupa, and the change management effort is significantly reduced, and which is why we think it's pretty cool tech to consider. But we can set up separate sessions to specifically and take you through a bit more around what what it would take, etc. So feel free to reach out to us on that, and we're happy to demo it to you.
Then thank you. I think that's it for today. If you want, if you didn't set up or add the question or the topic for the next Coupa Connect, you can use the QR code or you can use the link. If not, thank you very much for everything, and for any question, anything that maybe you have in your mind, just drop us an email and we can take it from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ab. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, amazing. Thank you, Sole, for everything.